everyone. Thank you so much for joining today for this episode 4 of Adapt or Get Rekt. Today, I have on a man whose artwork, if you are in the Hex community, everyone has seen this piece and everybody has loved it. That Richard Hart artwork, I believe of him getting out of a car. So our guest today is Hexn00b. So he's here to talk about his work, his art, Hex Pulse, and whatever else you might want to talk about. And you know what? I'm not the best at intros. Like I said, I just like to get to I was telling Hexn00b, I just like to get to the meat of it and start chatting. So without further ado and introing, here is Hexn00b.
Hey, Ashley, how you doing? Hello,
Hey.
hello. How's
Hey,
it going?
nice seeing you. Thank you so much for coming in today. How's everything?
Everything is well. How's everything out in your end of the world?
Everything's good, except this humidity. It's making my hair insane, but otherwise.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that humidity. I can't. So So I was curious if maybe you could tell us about yourself, crypto aside, just a little bit of your own background.
Okay. Well, my name is Danny. I go by Hexn00b on Twitter. I do a lot of things. I do a lot of different things. Most probably well known for my art. I've been painting now since mid to late 2014. I've been painting. A lot of things have happened very quickly, which is kind of interesting to me, kind of fun. I also, I write novels. I love to travel, do all kinds of weird stuff, and I basically all around try to be a decent guy. So that's me.
So you do it all, basically.
I try.
Well, you know what? Yeah, it seems like you're hitting it all pretty well. Put your name out there. We all know you. And speaking of being in the Hex community and you being so well known in the Hex community, how did you get into crypto and then Hex, or was it just always Hex?
Oh, well, I'm very, very, very fortunate because I was born into the Hex ecosystem. So I have a great friend who's also like my mentor. Love him to death. Been friends with him for, I don't know, 13 years or so. Like, great guy. And it was funny because in like October or November, like right after Hex launched, he's like, "You got to get into this Hex, you got." And at the time, and this is all pre pandemic, at the time I had a bit of liquid capital, and I was sitting there and I was looking at it, and I'm like, I don't understand, because when you first get exposed to crypto, you don't really understand it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to invest it in building another brick and mortar company. So I'm going to not do the Hex thing. It sounds intriguing, but I didn't. And I think about that every day. Yeah, right. So flash forward to October of 2021. So this last October, we're still talking about it. And every time we talk on the phone, we talk often, he'd always shill Hex to me. And I was just like, well, I don't know. And he's like, oh, it's almost to a penny. Oh, now it's 3 cents. And now it's 10. And then like in October, he's like, oh, it's like 55 cents or whatever it was at the time. And I'm like, wow, I better buy some of this now, like an idiot, right? So I bought it at the all-time high, and that was in mid-October. And I've been buying and DCAing in ever since. I'm just lowly crab, as it were, and with aspirations to be a turtle, and then hopefully one day a squid. We'll see. But that's how I got into Hex. So I'm very fortunate because I've with his guidance, and then of course with all the great people in the Hex community. And I do believe we have some of the smartest people in crypto in the Hex community. People like Jenkins and Gerardo and Wales and Orca and oh god, Hodl and just Trayvon and all these people who put out such amazing crypto kind. Like, you can go down the list, right? Like everybody in the Hex ecosystem is brilliant, and I kind of dove in, and I aped into Hex, and I went in hard in the Pulse X sacrifice because I missed the original Pulse sacrifice, and that's how I got here.
Oh, nice. And you know what's awesome is the fact that, a lot of people that bought at the all-time high ended up getting scared off, or maybe
Sure.
not a lot, but I think a fair amount of people, like, or you would think that it would scare people off. And I love that you understood it. You understood the value of what you have and the potential of what you have. That you're like, you know what, I'm just going to DCA in and just keep going with it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think that, yeah, kudos, because that's brave. That's a scary thing to do. If for that drop to happen. And because I was fortunate enough where I didn't get in early, but I got in early enough to see the gains. But
Mm.
I like to think that I would have hung on like you did, but then I'm like, I don't know. Well, would I have gotten scared off? So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
make no mistake. Don't get confused. Actually, I'm a wrecked pleb.
you're what?
I'm a wrecked pleb.
Uh,
Right. So but no, it's I think long term, because when I was very young, I was Mr. Instant Gratification. I was instant gratification everything. And as I've gotten older, and I'm an old man, right? As I've gotten older, I've really started to set my sights 3, 5, 10 years out. And the way I look at it is, sure, there's you have your OG Hexicans who got in at the very start up until big payday. Then you have everybody from big payday to the all-time high that got to ride those gains. That's your second wave. Third wave are people like me who bought at the all-time high, and then I went down. And then fourth wave, I would say, are people who got in any time since the new year until now. So
I'd say that's a good way to put it.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely, I've made exactly $0, from my hex, because it's all staked. Like everything, every time
Mhm.
I get hex from a painting, or can I only take payments in hex.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. Anytime I get proceeds from a painting, or I DCA, I just go ahead and stake it, and I just let it chill, and that's what I do. And I'm not worried about it. I look at it as like it's like a casino, but with much better odds, right?
Mm. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and you just take your time with it. Take your time with it, and I'm certain that hex someday will be the retirement. So that's how
Mm.
I do it.
And it's awesome that you got in for Pulse X
Oh
too.
yeah, oh
Yeah,
big
because
time.
you're on the ground floor with that, which is
Hmm.
yeah, which is fantastic. And I love the way that you put that it's kind of like a casino, because sometimes I look at crypto as that, like, it satisfies that impulse where, you're like, "Yeah, why don't I just try my luck?" But of course, we've seen the way it goes with lottery. It never seems to ever go the right way, but at least, so you kind of get to satisfy that it does feel like gambling sometimes, even though we know it's not. But it satisfies, I feel like, that impulse, but we actually get to see good come out of it. We actually get to see the gains on it.
Right,
um
right,
yeah.
and something I'm grateful to Richard for is Richard really talks about not trading, because trading will get you wrecked,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love that
And
saying. Yeah.
and that's like I said, I'm really grateful to everyone in the hex community, especially Richard, that I got to learn from him, and learn from, like, my guy who was like my hex Sherpa, who
Mhm.
brought me in, because he was getting wrecked for years until he found hex.
Mm.
And a lot of people had to pay a lot of dues for people like me to get to where they are, and be like, oh, I'm just going to buy hex, and just chill, and that's it.
Yeah,
So it's not, I don't have to
absolutely.
watch it all the time, or because I'm super I, I'm super obsessive about things. I don't know if you can identify with that at all. Like,
Oh, yeah, I can see some.
yeah,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
You're very
so
passionate. Let's say passionate. That's a way nicer way to put it, right?
passionate is a very pleasant way to put it. So, and to not have to watch the charts all day and worry about trading and do all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I find that makes my life a lot easier. I can just buy it, and sit, and eventually one day number go up, right?
Mhm.
And
Oh, for
and
sure.
until then, because everything is unprecedented, the amount of foobar nonsense we see going on in the world right now. So
Okay. Yeah.
uh, I think that, patience, and keep on getting in and acquiring those bags, and eventually you'll get to where you want to go.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And the amazing thing about Hex and about Pulse is that it's designed to go up. So even if
Hmm.
we're not seeing it in this moment, like you said, it's going to happen, and you have that planned out for your retirement. Because you believe that, and you know what? We all believe that. That's the wonderful thing about Hex is it's not like this if, like we know the potential of what we have, and it'll be the same with Pulse and Pulse X. And speaking of Pulse and Pulse X, do you have any thoughts or predictions on any of them?
Well, it's interesting. With all the rumblings we've been hearing lately about Pulse Chain coming very soon, and I
Mhm.
I, I hope it does because it will give me something new to obsess on. You know,
Mhm.
as far as predictions, if it launches, I did a tweet the other day where I said I think in our darkest hour, Richard Hart will release Pulse Chain.
Mm.
And that wasn't talking about Hex because Hex is just doing what Hex does. Like, and
Yeah.
if you look at the market and especially with the debacles going on lately with Luna and everything else, we've seen coins lose tremendous value. And if you think about it, since the all-time high, right, we've been kind of
Mhm.
we had those initial dips and then it's been like, crabbed along from what? November, December, January, we had that spike in January right before the Pulse X sacrifice. Then the Pulse X sacrifice started, went down to like the mid 20s and crabbed along there for a long time, went down a little bit more. And then and according to the market, even though Hex is pretty decorrelated, it's been holding its weight very, very well considering what other things have been doing. Like if you look at Ethereum yesterday, it's finally starting to recover. Bitcoin's
Mhm.
finally starting to recover. And and as far as when Pulse Chain launches, when I said that, in our darkest hour, I wasn't talking about Hex or the Hex community. I was just talking about crypto in general. I
Oh
think
god,
I think
and
there's
we've
no
seen
better
some of
time. I think there's no better time than now or soon for Richard to launch Pulse Chain because I think people right now are hungrier than ever for some change. And even doing like small transactions, even a couple $100 transactions can cost 20, 30, 40, $50 on Ethereum, and
Mhm.
that's no fun. And the
Yeah.
barrier to entry for so many people is so high. And if you think about the third world and you think about other countries where people really, really need an alternative to their fiat currency, like you think about Africa and Southeast Asia and all these places. I think Pulse Chain, if it gets mass adoption throughout there, where people can actually get in and put their fiat into something that at least where they have a chance for a better life without having these barriers of entry of such high gas fees, I think it will really, really change the world, and that's what I'm really excited about.
You know what? And that's such a great way to put it because it never considered to me. Sorry, it never occurred to me, I should say, that the Ethereum gas fees, besides being a lot for us, that it's pricing out people in the third world. So, I
Hmm.
mean, and crypto could be such a way for them to kind of get a leg up. But if they're being priced out of it, yeah, they won't have those same opportunities, and it kind of becomes a classist system in a way, which is not crypto's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be, for everyone. And even with staking, I remember having some issues where it's or like the panic of I need to end my stake, but these gas fees are so insane. I don't have liquid money to end these gas fees. What am I going to do? Or even where I just wanted to put a little bit into Hex, like, really small amount, but it's like I can't cover the gas. And then and I've talked about that on Twitter, and then I would get these obnoxious things back. Well, it's an investment, so you'll make it back. But I'm like, do you not get it? If I don't have $100 for gas, how am I going to buy $20 of Hex when all I have is the 20, $30 to invest. And I was just thinking about it in my first world problem sense, but it never occurred to me what you said. So wow, like what a way for developing countries to be able to yeah, get a leg up, maybe like even countries themselves that are investing in it
Hmm.
that maybe don't have the resources. So not only the people, but the countries themselves. So it's really fascinating to think about the potential it does have for changing the world. Because I know we always talk about, oh, it's going to change the world, but then when you actually sit and think about it, it's like, oh no, this is legit change the world if there is a
Hmm.
topic. So
Well,
yeah, I'm glad you bring that up.
absolutely. And I think that's something interesting to think about because,
Mm.
like you said, you in stake and it's like, oh, it's like $40 or $50. You're like, ah,
Mhm.
but for somebody in South America or somebody in Southeast Asia or Africa, or even people I know. I'm like, hey, you should buy some Hex. They're like, oh, I'll put $100 in. They won't go to put $100 in. And it's like, well, the gas fee, even if you can get them to understand how to do it. And I've onboarded a lot of people, even the gas fee could be 20 or $30, and that's 20 or 30% of your initial investment for nothing. I mean, that's disgusting. Plus the damage it does to the environment. Plus it's slow. Plus it's antiquated. Plus the security isn't great. Pulse chain is going to change the world, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
As far as predictions for what Pulse chain is going to do, well, here's what I'm going to do. I have this really fascinating, very game theoried out way that I'm going to completely save myself when Pulse chain launches. You ready?
Okay, tell me.
I'm going to do nothing.
You're gonna do nothing. There you go.
I'm going to do nothing. Yeah, no, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to watch, because I'm a pleb. I'm a total noob. I didn't choose a new name Hexn00b to be cute, which I am. But I did it, in fact, because I don't know anything about anything. And I watched a lot of people's videos of like, oh, best post chain strategies and oh, this and that. It's like, man, I'm just gonna hodl. I'm gonna be like this.
Yeah.
Because I'll wreck myself, and I know I'll wreck myself like if I try to get smart. And so I'm not even going to stake. I'm not going to do anything for a couple months. I'm just going to kind of watch and see what it does. As soon as there's a bridge, I'm going to start buying PHEX, and I'll start buying Pulse because I don't have any Pulse. It'd be nice to have some Pulse. And I'll probably ape into those as hard as I possibly can. And I'm fortunate too, because I do well in real life as well. So I'll have the means to do that. But as far as trying to get brilliant and start bridging things over and doing liquidity, adding liquidity and doing pairing, no, I'm not going to do any of that kind of stuff. I'm too dumb.
You know what? Yeah, no, that's totally valid. It's like, when in doubt, hold it out. I guess we'll call it, because like I've thought about that too, because I would love to investigate different ways to build up what I have. But I'm like, I don't understand it. I have a lot of trouble understanding that. And I'm like, what if I mess it up because I don't get it? So I'm like, maybe I just need to hold until I understand better. And I guess that's what the test net is for. But it is a little intimidating. So that's what I'm leaning toward too. I'm like, you know what? If I can't figure it out, there's nothing wrong with holding, because it's going to go up at some point. It's true. I mean, and I'm glad we do have that option, like that we've all been well educated in that whole like trading will get you wrecked thing, because sometimes I have that impulse when if I have a little extra cash. Like, it was terrible, but I did have that thought of like, why don't I buy Luna at the bottom and see what happens? And I'm like, no, no. That's, first of all, that would be a form of trading, and I could really mess up. And then it just feels wrong to be trying to make money off the backs of people who have lost everything at this point. And, I'm like, just leave Luna alone. It's in the toilet. It's garbage, but there is that moment where it does sometimes come over you. So it is kind of a good crypto commandment to go by. But
yeah, and that whole thing was very sad. It's unfortunate, because that's a lot of people lost their life savings. A lot of people lost everything. And I think Wales made a good point too, because and I even said this. I'm like, I'm not gonna laugh or rejoice about people getting wrecked, because I mean that's horrible. That's their livelihood. These people have kids. These people have homes. These people have people that depend on them. And you're thinking about, like, in 48 hours they lost everything, and it's a bummer. Will it ever come back? I doubt it. I doubt Luna has the energy to recover from this. But once again, I'm a noob. I don't know.
No, I hear you. And we have to be careful, I guess, not to gloat and be like, and when I say we, as a community, to be like, oh, you should have been in Hex, you should have done this, you should have done that. No, because people have lost their livelihood. Some people have committed suicide over this, sadly. So you know what? But it's nice that maybe the Pulse chain launch will kind of coincide with people from Luna looking for other options, and they'll be like, okay, let's see, and then hopefully this could help them make everything back. Give them some opportunities that weren't there, give them an opportunity to do even better than they would have done in that.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. A new beginning for everybody too. And I think it's been a long time coming. And that's the brilliant thing about about Richard is that, and he said it himself. He goes, he innovates, but what he does is he makes good things better, and he brings
Mhm.
value, and that's why Richard has the following he has, and that's why Hex does what it does, is because he looked at Bitcoin, and he was mining Bitcoin back in the day, and he's like, well, how can we improve on this? And that's where he came up with Hex. And I think it's glorious.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of like comes back to the Henry Ford thing. He didn't invent the car; he made it better and he made it more accessible. So Richard Hart, if you think about it, is like a Henry Ford of crypto. So
Exactly.
yeah, so good place to be in that community. So I think whatever you may hold, anyone may hold in this, whether it's just Hex or just Pulse, or even if there's small bags, it'll make a difference. And actually, I saw a comment relating to that biggest impact is going to be people with smaller bags, word of mouth. I think it's awesome that this community, the smaller bags do make a difference, and then when people see those gains in the smaller bags, it makes them want to just put more in, and makes people want to tell what's going on. That's what happened to me. I got a tiny bag in before a big payday, and then once I saw what happened with it, I was like, oh shoot, I need to put everything in this, which then was after big payday. But yeah, I'm so excited for that potential of Pulse Chain. But if you don't mind, I'm going to hop onto a different subject for a moment. And you kind of did speak of this. You said you were accepting Hex payments for your art, which is wild. I think that's so cool, so amazing. But you had also mentioned that your art, like, that wasn't something you were doing your whole life. You just recently got into that, or?
Yeah, well, I started painting in 2014. Prior prior to 2000, well, up until January 14th, I was the regional manager for a large finance company. So we did B2B lending, so nothing in the consumer space, but strictly
Mhm.
business to business. So I have a background in sales and finance, and I got hit by a drunk driver, um, and I got a brain injury, along with a lot of other injuries, and well, it turns out that the brain injury gave me the ability to paint.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, it was interesting. Um, and by the way, don't drink and drive, kids. Always wear your seatbelt. Try to be safe. The accident happened at like 6:30 at night, so it's not like I was out, at all hours running around in the middle of the night. It's, you're out doing things you do. Um, but yeah, so what happened was, he hit me going on a surface street. I was in a car also driving, and and it was interesting because not only, well, all the bones in my face here were broken, and all of my ribs around this side were broken, and it severed the ligaments here in my neck, and knocked out all my teeth, which was a lot of fun. um, and but what was happening is, I was I basically had lost my mind. Yeah, I had what was called post-concussive syndrome, and in the days and weeks after the accident, I was suffering from severe hallucinations, and I was basically just going crazy. I was like a crazy person. So I was sent to one of the best neurologists in Los Angeles. That's where I was living at the time, and I had every test ran on me they could run, and he was telling me, he said, the brain takes time to heal. There's nothing, for what you have, which essentially was a severe concussion. You can only really just try to be quiet, and no lights, no stimulus, no screens. Just you have to let things kind of settle. And I said, well, what should I do? Because I need to have something to do. Because even though I was, in physical therapy 4 times a week at that point, I mean, trying to like, and nursing and recovering from all the other injuries as well. Um, he said, well, I don't know, try some quiet hobbies, like, I don't know, try painting. And my girlfriend at the time went to the art store, and she got me a couple little panels, and some like cheap acrylic paints, and she just drop them off to me while she was going to work. And this was about 5 or 6 months after the accident happened, because before then I wasn't able to do much of anything. And I remember one day I was sitting alone, just bored out of my mind, because I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything, because I was crazy. I had a complete personality shift, and it was very, very hard. It was hell. It was not fun at all, and to go through that kind of traumatic event, and the job that I've been working for fired me because I could no longer think or focus, and you can't be dealing with people's assets and be crazy, and it was a really dark place. And I remember one day I was sitting and I kind of looked over and I saw the little art supplies there, and I said, oh, okay. So I grabbed them and I started playing around and looking at the colors, and keep in mind I was still having these severe hallucinations. And it was almost like I almost felt guided, and it's people ask me to kind of describe what it's like to paint and to do what I do. It's almost like there's an intuition, right? Like I know where things are supposed to go, and I know how things are supposed to look, and I know how colors are going to work together, and it's almost like telling a story on the canvas, right? And I just started just playing around and just enjoying myself and having fun, and I looked down and I didn't even know what I was doing, and I paint very fast when I paint. I paint live a lot too. I've done a lot of live painting exhibitions, and I looked down and there was this beautiful painting there, and I remember I texted my girlfriend at the time. I said I did a painting and it's good. And she was like, oh, that's nice. And I'm like, no, it's actually really good. And she's like, oh, and I sent her a picture and she was like, what the hell? I never, and we all did like arts and crafts, like in primary school, you know what I mean? We all were in like when we were kids, but I never had any interest in art, up until then. And that was the start. And I remember I put that painting on Facebook, and I was like, hey, look at this painting I did. Because Facebook, was the thing back then. And people were like, oh, wow, can I buy that? And I was like, yes. And that's how it got started. And it's been almost, oh, geez, next year, no, it's been 8 years, about 7.5 years since that day. And this is where I am now.
Oh, that's amazing. Because, you hear certain stories of like people saying, oh, I had a brain injury and then I all of a sudden had the ability to speak in different accents, or, these other skills improved, or so it's really wild, because it's the first time I've heard of it when it comes to painting, that just like something clicked in your brain. And I'm so blown away by this. And it's also interesting that you talked about post-concussive syndrome, because you hear a lot about, other brain injuries or TBIs, right? Because is a post-concussive syndrome, is that also a TBI, or is that different than a TBI? I've never specifically heard of that, which I think is interesting, that there's not like more of an awareness.
Well, apparently, and I'm not a doctor, I tend to just kind of focus on what I know about. It's something that after you've had trauma, it can take time for the brain to start functioning again properly. So, and that's just what the neurologist said, was just to take things very slow and try to limit stimulation. And that's really all that they could do. I didn't need to be operated on, thank God. I didn't, I had epidurals in my back. I had all this other stuff that was done to me, but I didn't need to have any kind of like open brain surgery or anything. So everything just kind of had to resettle. And that was their answer for that. And I was grateful for it. I consider myself to be very, very lucky that I can still walk and talk and function. And, because it could have been much, much, much worse. And I was like, I was house sitting for my mom when it happened, when the accident happened. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, because I drove like a little like a little coupe, like a little
Mhm.
sporty coupe. And I remember at the time she's like, "Oh, can I borrow your car?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. I'll just take," because my mom had a big pickup truck, and I took the
Mhm.
pickup truck instead of taking my coupe. And if I was in the coupe when when that
Oh,
accident
wow.
happened, it would
Yeah.
have been a different story. So
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot
No, it
a lot of
definitely is.
a lot of neat things had to happen.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I don't know if you believe in him, but somebody was watching over you. I mean, and it's like, and for good to come out of the bad too. So even I'm sure you still live with pain and issues from it, but like you have this beautiful thing that came out of it too. So I'm sure. Do you ever like? Do you ever wish that it didn't happen at all? But then you wouldn't have the art.
Yeah, it's the road to recovery was very slow.
Hmm.
It's very slow, and I do have constant pain, and I do have, because it wasn't just the injury here. It was a lot of other things too.
Hmm.
Um, I you know I- every I it had to happen. I think it had to happen, and I'm not. People say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky this happened to you. Oh my goodness. Oh wow." And it's like the road to get from the crash scene to where I was able to function again was very treacherous. It
Hmm.
was not fun, and I can talk a lot about like mental illness, and I can talk a lot about um, a lot of things that came along with what happened, and it's not something I would wish on anybody. It was it was really hard. It was really hard because imagine, and it was really hard on my family and the people that care about me too, because I became a completely different person. I was mean as a cat there for a while, and like it
Oh, wow.
wasn't it was really hard. And but yeah, I'm I'm grateful that it happened, because yeah, it is neat to paint, and it's a lot of fun, and I have a good time, and it's taken me all over the world, and it's definitely made my life a lot more interesting than it was before. So good times.
Well, thank you for what you do artwork wise and putting it out into the world. Because, like I said, I see everybody on Twitter just loves your work, and there's so much attention for it. And speaking about your work, somebody had asked here, will you do NFTs on Mintra?
Yeah, I just got together with Steak and Apes, and we're putting out some NFTs. I just put some out a couple days ago. I haven't really done much with them since, but yeah, I think after Pulse Chain launches, we'll get together with Gerardo and make some cool stuff happen. Absolutely.
Very cool. And then we had
Hmm.
a question about prints. Oh, tell us
Mm.
about the prints. Do you also put out prints to sell too, or is it just the commissions?
Yeah, we will be. There's a Hexagon actually out in Europe who has a high-end print shop.
Oh,
And we've been collaborating, and we're getting ready to put out some prints of a couple projects I've done. And the sad thing is, for the Hex community, nobody can see any of the Hex paintings that I've done yet, because they're all being used for certain things.
oh,
And I
exciting.
can't, yeah, I can't start showing them or shilling them until that they're actually out there. So because I can't spoil the surprises. But
So you
yeah,
got a
they're.
lot of under wraps going on.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it.
okay, well,
And but
speaking
yes,
of
there will be
stuff like
prints.
maybe you can talk about, maybe you can't talk about what you're doing with it, but your Richard Hart painting.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
can you tell us how that came about? Was that just something you wanted to do, or did somebody contact you for that?
No, that was something I just wanted to do, and because when I first got into Hex and I started watching Richard Hart, I was like, who is this dude? Like, why is he like this? Like, what is he doing? What's he all about? And I instantly like loved him. You know what I mean? Because he just seems like he reminds me a lot of one of the friends I grew up with. Is like super wicked smart. And he's I instantly I was like, I like this guy, and I could tell he was brilliant, right? Like obviously he's like galaxy brained, um, but he's also funny too, right? And I'm like, this guy's like my people, and I think that's why a lot of Hexkins really love him. And the cool thing about Richard is he actually interacts with the community. You know, he's actually like a decent person who's there, right? And I saw that photo of him getting out of the car, and I did my due diligence to try to track down the person who took it, even though the person who actually took the photo, I guess, is unknown. But I reached out to Hex photographer. I'm like, did you do this? And he's like, I don't know if that's one of mine. I'm like, well, because usually I like to get permission if I'm going to paint something like that. But Richard Hart's a public figure,
Hmm.
you know, so it's kind of like painting a picture of like Madonna. You know, it's like it is what it is. So I really liked that image of him, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to paint him. I'm going to paint him big because he's a larger than life character, right? So I did this massive 6 foot by 6 foot painting of
Oh wow,
him,
that's how
and
big it is.
oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah. My like this is small. Like this
Uh-huh.
guy right here, this is a small painting for me. Like my paintings tend to be 5 by 4, 5 by 6, or 6 by 6. The largest painting I ever did was for a museum show, and it was 36 feet long by 6 feet tall.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I knocked out that Richard Hart painting, and it came out amazing. We had professional photographs taken of it, and it has been shipped to an undisclosed location with undisclosed people for undisclosed reasons.
Oh, okay. When will
Mhm.
we get to, when will that be released to the public? Do you know when that'll come about? So you don't even know. Okay. Or you
Yeah,
can't say, I should say.
yeah, probably the same time Pulse Chain comes out. I don't know.
Okay.
Two
Gotcha.
more
Okay.
weeks.
Well,
2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. I hope so. I think he said he was supposed to update us today. I don't know if it happened or not, but
I don't know. I was napping right before I hopped on with you.
yeah, I know I'm afraid to look at what that answer was, but yeah, let's just say 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
At least it's not 4 more weeks anymore. Um, and so your style. Can you tell us a little bit about your painting style?
Well, I like to paint. I painted everything from like hyper realism to abstract. I'm working on an abstract piece right now. Would you like to see it?
Oh, I would love to see it.
Okay, hold on. It's actually commissioned here. Um,
Okay.
yeah, hold on. Let me get it. Not too big. Here we are. Oh, ah.
Wow.
So, so I think it's supposed to be actually like this. Uh, uh. So we're working on this one right now. And this is a fun one. Great big
That-
abstract piece. Isn't
It's
that
so
fun?
gorgeous. I love the colors,
Oh, thank you.
especially that orange in there.
Yeah, the person who commissioned it for me is a Hexakin, and he just got a new place with his Hex proceeds. And I said, well, what do you have in mind? And he said, well, I wanted to be kind of abstract, but I like these colors and I wanted to match with my room. So I had him send me high res natural light images of the furniture and everything he wants to coordinate it with. So I
Mhm.
color matched all the colors to blend in seamlessly with his room.
Oh wow.
So
So this room is going to be amazing now with the picture just pulling everything all together.
it's
Oh, I
going to be a
love
lot of fun. So I do that, and then I do like a modern pointillism. And when I say modern pointillism, I mean, you know those paintings that when you're up close are just a bunch of dots, and then you
yeah.
get far away and it looks like an image.
Mhm.
So I like doing like my own version of that, where from far away they look almost hyper realistic. When you get up close, it's just random shapes and colors.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm working on several right now. I have this one behind me. I got one right in front of me. I just shipped one to Florida this morning. That's going to be for some kind of nonprofit charity auction. I do a lot of charity work as well. It's always been a big deal for me. Um, so I developed like this kind of style because I don't, you know, I don't consider myself to be an artist really. You know, I consider artists to be like disruptors of history, and I like to fancy myself as being on the caliber of like a Van Gogh or Picasso or somebody like that, but I'm afraid it's just not the case. So when I go to museums, I love looking at art. Like I just love it. I love art because you can capture a moment in time, and art. I believe I believe art's like a mirror because You know, when you look at a painting, you don't see the painting, you see what's in you, right? Um, a quick story, then I'll answer the question. You know, I was doing a gallery show once, and I had some large scale paintings in it. And I when I do shows, like, you know, I'm not a huge extrovert, really. I'd rather I'd rather be at home than out. And when I do shows, it's like a 5 hour long anxiety attack. And
Oh,
and I tend to just kind of like skulk around like a phantom, you know, it's kind of wander around the room. And sometimes I'm recognized, sometimes I'm not. And I really try not to like I don't want the art to be about me. I want it to be about the art. So I was doing this show and I had all these large scale paintings up, and I was listening to this man um, explain my art to his girlfriend and one of her friends. And he was like, "Well, you see what the artist is conveying here, and what he really means is, you know," and he went on this long diatribe of bullshit, apparently. And I was just kind of sitting back and listening, and I'm like, I kind of walked over. I'm like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Oh yeah, no, absolutely. This is what this painting is about." And the painting was of a man who was blindfolded. He was, you know, I'll post a picture of it today on Twitter, and I'll tag you in it so you can see the painting I'm
yeah, I'd love to
talking
see
about.
that.
And I'm sorry.
I said, oh, I would love to see that.
Okay. And I said, okay. And he's like, don't you agree? And I looked over at his girlfriend, who was looking at him lovingly, and his girlfriend's friend, who was cute, you know. And I was just like, I think you're absolutely right, because it's not my place to tell him what he believes the art's about.
Hmm.
You know, it's about what they want it to be.
Yeah.
You know, and when I
Right.
get commissioned, you know, when I get commissioned, and it's not very often that I don't do commissions very often. It's for me, it's more of like I'd rather paint things that I find interesting, or people. I typically paint people I know or unknown people. And what I mean by that is I don't want to. I have a lot of friends in the art space who make a very nice living painting influencers and painting musicians and painting, you know, celebrities, right? And that's terrific. You know, if you want to paint The Rock and Kobe Bryant and Madonna and all those people, knock yourself out. I think that's wonderful. But for me, I think it's much more intriguing if I can paint just some random person
I like that.
and have it evoke some emotion in somebody.
Hmm.
I think that's much deeper, because it's not the subject of the painting that you recognize and you're like, oh, I love The Rock. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, Dwayne Johnson. No, it's, wait a second. There's something going on here that really speaks to me. And if I can inspire that and inspire other people through a visual medium, well, that's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Truly. I mean, because art is a form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're communicating something to someone or you're communicating their thoughts right back at them like a mirror, you know, and I think I like that you take that approach to it, because it's true. Like when the second you said painting influencers and painting actors or whoever, I'm like, your perception of the art is going to be tainted by whatever you think of this person. So it could be the
Mm-hmm.
most gorgeous piece of, you know, of artwork, that maybe if it was someone random, it would create some different feelings and emotions. But because you hate that actor that it's painted, that is painted in it, it completely taints that. So yeah, so I like the idea of that, of painting, you know, people, you know, who we might not know, because I know that some of the things that you've posted online, I don't know who these people are that you're posting, but just the art, you know, so that art gets that opportunity to speak to us. And I'm always so intrigued by your work, because I guess that's, you know, that it's exactly what you say, you know, because we're putting our own interpretation of it. And it's kind of like, it's one of those things I hated from school. I felt like in school, like whether we were picking apart literature or artwork, you know, in high school, and they would always say, this is what the artist is communicating. This is what they're telling you. And even though let's say the words are saying this, that's not really what they mean. They secretly mean this. And I'm like, how do you know? We don't know that was what, how come it can't be what it is? And then, you know, and admit that what you're seeing in it is your own interpretation and not the artist, you know. So I hate putting the words in the artist's mouth, you know. I'd rather it be an interpretation. So, and I love that story where you were just creeping around, seeing what that mirror was for everybody, seeing what their interpretations are. So so that means a lot of these people going to your gallery showings, you don't have a picture up of yourself and like, this is the artist. I don't know. Okay, so that's cool. So you get to be anonymous.
Yeah, well, for the most part, like I used to have a pretty decent following on Instagram before my account got shut down, and I'm trying to rebuild it, but I don't really care about Instagram anymore. I think it's a dying medium. I think it's a dying platform.
That too.
And yeah, so I used to back in the day. I used to get recognized a lot more, but now I don't really post a lot of photos. I'll post if I'm ever in the photo of a painting, is to give the painting scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, because your
Right.
scales are big of your paintings. They're not typical scales too. So it really does help seeing you next to
Right.
that. Mhm.
Well, then, I could be 3 feet tall. You never know. So
Yeah, but at least we have a ballpark idea.
I'm just a wee lad, but in reality, it's I like what I like about art is it's so subjective, and what I hate about art is that it's so subjective. And what I mean by that is that I grew up playing music in a semi-professional capacity, and I got to perform and tour and do all that kind of good stuff. Shout out to Kissing Candace and everybody on the band. Hey guys, how's it going? But with when it comes to music or when it comes to acting, you can tell right away if somebody has chops. You can tell right away if somebody is good or not. Because when somebody walks on stage, the proof is right there. With art, it's so subjective that it's. Don't go on a rant. Okay, I'm going to go on a rant for just a real rant. Is that the art world? I think is as corrupt and disgusting as it gets.
I was
And
the second you said that, I was thinking about that. I wanted to ask you about this. So thank you for bringing this up. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so here, my interpretation as an outsider looking in, because I don't play the game and I won't put up with bullshit. I am the Richard Hart of the art world. Here, hold on. I'm gonna do my Richard Hart. Okay, who raised over $1 million for a women's shelter with his art? Me. Who raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for breast cancer? Me. Who went across country doing live painting for the homeless to raise money for homeless? Me. I'm the best man in art. But in serious, and those are all real things. But in seriousness, the art world is not a meritocracy, and it has all the worst parts of show business and all the worst parts of the business world all rolled into one. And what I mean by that is the people who run the art world, the blue chip galleries, the auction houses, and even the people in the art press field. Like, if you're not, let me put it to you like this: if you're on the right side of Marx, nobody's even going to look at you. If you don't have a certain look or ideology, nobody's going to work with you. And I've had galleries straight up tell me that. They're like, oh well, oh, you're a straight white guy. We don't show people like you anymore. I'm like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was about art. And for me personally, I don't care who makes the art, as long as it's good art. So on the subjective level, anybody can be a famous artist. All it takes is for the right people, probably just like in the acting world and just like in the music business, to say, you know what, you're going to get made. But unlike the acting world and unlike the music business, well, I suppose you have auto tune now in session players, but you know, it's been around for a long time. You still can't fake it live. Unlike those other mediums, you know, you can have some people who just put whatever on a canvas, and if the right people say that's worth $250,000, everybody else will say, of course it is.
Just go with it.
Of course it is. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's a lot of money laundering and a lot of dirty things that go along with the art world, and that's everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. There's a lot of predatory practices in the art world, just like in the acting and just like in the music industry, and everybody knows it. And I'm a liberty-minded person. I'm not somebody who's going to play those games. I'm not a pay-to-play guy. I'm not going to pay money to get my coins ranked on CoinMarketCap. I'm not going to do that kind of bullshit. You know, just like how Richard Hart doesn't do any of that kind of bullshit, because what I produce is good. I produce quality, good material. People who see value in it, well, yeah, they're the galaxy brains. You can let the plebs buy their Banksy paintings and, you know, pretend like they're being activists. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it stands on its own merits. So past the point, yeah, you don't need to do anything for it. It'll find its audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
absolutely.
Yeah. So and the whole accepting Hex for your commissions, how did that come about? Were you originally like, you know, doing cash, and then how did that change? How did you make your way to that? That's so fascinating.
That's a kind of a funny story, because, you know, like I said, I got in at the ATH, right? And I want to, you know, obviously accumulate as much Hex as possible before the fork. Now, I can DCA in my way in as hard as possible, but I can also sell art for a Hex. Now, instead of like when you do a gallery show, all right, I'll just give you like a behind the scenes look. Let's say I do a show in England. I've done shows in England. I love doing shows in England. I always have a good time when I go to London. It's wonderful. You have to make the art. You know, each one, a large painting, like, you know, something like the size of like the Richard Hart painting would probably cost me anywhere between $800 to $1,500 to produce, and that's just the materials. Then you have to figure another 40 to 60 to 70 hours of my time. Okay. And that's a lot, because considering I work a full-time career as well, like a high, you know, I work in high-end sales, high-ticket sales. Okay.
Yeah, so it's busy.
So, oh yeah, I work 12, 14 hours a day, and then I still find I get up at, you know, 4:35 in the morning. I sleep for like 4 or 5 hours. I get up at 4:35 in the morning, and I paint until I have to get ready to go to work. And then I come home, and if I have time, I'll paint a little bit before I collapse from exhaustion, and that's how I get everything done. I burn the candle at both ends, because that's how it has to be right now, and that's okay. I enjoy it. So I produce a painting, right? And let's say the gallery says to me, we want 5 paintings. Okay, great. So that's going to cost me anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 to maybe $7,000 to produce. Then those paintings have to make their way to Europe. Well, you're not going to fit a 6x6 painting on an airplane. So they either have to be freighted, or I have to take them off, roll them up, ship them there, get them stretched and framed and hung. You know, I don't participate in galleries. I charge a fee to hang the art and show the art, because a lot of galleries are like that. Most people don't know it. Most people don't understand that when you go to an art gallery, sometimes artists pay to have their art shown in that gallery. Then they pay to have, when the gallery sells the art, and they're lucky if they walk away with 15 or 20% of what the art sells for at the end of the day.
Oh wow, so it's pay to play. I had no idea that was happening in art.
Oh, big time. Big time. You know, I've done shows in New York City. I got to get back there too. I love the city. Even hearing your little accent, I'm like, oh, I want to go back.
Triggering some nostalgia.
Right? Yeah, get some. Hey, you told me we're going to get pizza. You said that.
Oh yeah, if you're ever in New York, you let me know.
We'll have fun. But yeah, so imagine all the steps it takes to get to that gallery show. Then when the art sells, you typically have a 50-50 split with the gallery for whatever they can sell it for. And even when they sell the art. Even if you bring the people in, because you do the promotion and you do everything, they're still going to get a half of that. So I said to myself, I don't really like working with galleries, because you're going to get me on a rant here, Ash.
I would love to hear the rant.
Galleries, there's a lot of really nice galleries out there, and a lot of gallery owners who are actually good people, but that's the exception, not the rule. Most of them are very predatory. Most of them take advantage of artists. A lot of times I've had arts lost by galleries.
Mm.
Oh, we lost your giant painting.
How convenient.
Really? Right? And it's an industry that I think is gonna go the way of the music industry. Remember when like Napster and all that stuff came out, and all of a sudden the music industry, I don't know how old you are, but I would assume you're old enough to remember like when file sharing and everything started.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
It turned things on its head. Well, I think that, even like with Instagram, with Twitter, with all these other art sites and print on demand sites, is really starting to turn the art gallery world on its head. Now, most people won't buy a painting for $30 or $40 or $50,000. No, they won't. But why do I want to participate with people? And what is a gallery really going to do for me that I can't do for myself? So when I came up with the idea for selling art for Hex, because my art sells well, in the gallery spaces, I said to myself, I could sell this for less than half the cost I could at a gallery, or I could sell this for less than half of what I would sell this for in a gallery and still end up netting more money. And here's why. Number one, I could get art into the hands of people, the Hexkins, who I'm a part of, and I love the Hex community, and I'm grateful, very grateful to the Hex community for all the support they've given me. It means a lot. But also, my art goes up into the right in value, just like Hex goes up into the right in value. So I thought to myself, I could sell my art for cash, or just have people, Venmo or PayPal me. But if I started taking payment in Hex and I staked it out, well, that painting essentially will pay me forever. And why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, and you're not paying the gas fees.
And I'm not paying the gas fees, and I'm not paying the commission to the galleries.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's on chain, and nobody has to know about it.
Man, you you found the right way to do it, and it's a nice way to kind of because if people don't do something different, then these galleries are just going to keep like winning at their game they're playing. So like you said, now that there's internet sales, that there's print on demand, that you're doing things the way you're doing, you're taking money out of their hands, and hopefully, like you said, turning the industry on its head. And a lot of people want to talk, and and it's all talk, but you're actually making a difference and you're doing it yourself. And I think that's such a big deal, and especially cool that it's coming kind of through the Hexagon community, because we have so many things we do that are unique and different from the rest of the crypto world. And then here's like another thing you're adding to it, so you're besides doing something you love and being able to make money off something you love, you're also adding value to the Hex community. So it's like a win-win-win-win. It just keeps going, and you're padding your retirement, man. You're going to be very, very comfortable in your retirement.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really so grateful for the Hex community. Like there's the people I've met here, and the friends I've made here are some of the greatest people I've ever met, and I'm super grateful for everybody, and and it all goes back to Richard. If you think about it, like he's one who created this niche crypto, and we've all found each other through it, and I think it's just wonderful.
Yeah, truly. There's no community like us in crypto. And it's such a special thing to be a part of. And it feels like we're at the forefront of something, like we're the pioneers of something. So it's good to be here. And it's awesome getting to meet so many like-minded people. Like, even if we're not exactly like-minded, we're on the same page with so many other things. And it's incredible to have had the connecting factor be a crypto. Like who would have expected that? I couldn't have pictured myself here like 3 years ago, you know?
Right.
So somebody had said Hex is a cosmic magnet. Yeah, it kind of does. It does have that vibe, you know? It feels like that. Somehow it's, yeah, bringing everybody together.
No, I've made some terrific friends here, and I'm really super excited to see where it goes. And you know what? It's funny because I don't really get involved with like any kind of nonsense or anything. You know, I won't ever. I don't have time to argue with people on the internet. You know, I'm just not that
Mhm.
guy. I'm not going
Yeah.
to do that. You know, especially like over. You know, especially people in my own tribe, and especially people. I mean, I'm just not going to do it. But you know, just wait until Pulse Chain launches, guys. Just wait until Pulse Chain launches, and everything's gonna be sweet. You know,
And then everybody will
we're
calm
all
down.
we're gonna be loving each other
The
again. We're gonna be giving each other hugs again. That'll be terrific.
Yeah,
So
this is just like the angry anticipation. Sorry, I can't speak. Before
anticipation.
launch, it's like being hangry. You know, everybody's hangry for Pulse and starting to fight over it.
We're all
Um,
hangry.
yeah, everybody's So, but thank you so much for being here today.
Oh,
Um,
the Art Bell story.
yeah, I was gonna ask if you could, yeah, if you can end us with that Art Bell story. And I just want to say hi to Bobby Hexelrod who just popped in. It's all
Oh,
good. We
hey,
still have
Bobby.
some stuff to talk about, Bobby. So yeah, you said you haven't. So just as a preface to anyone who hasn't seen it, I have a Saturday night live stream called High Strangeness, and it's kind of inspired by Coast to Coast AM. And so Hexn00b says he has a coast to coast story for me, which I'm very excited to hear.
I sure do. And you know, I grew up listening to Coast to Coast and Art Bell. You know, and of course replaced by George Norrie, and I love that kind of stuff. And I'm a Bigfoot enthusiast, so I want to get on High Strangeness one night and we can talk about Bigfoot.
Yes,
I've
please do. I would love to talk
okay.
about Bigfoot on the
You
stream.
know, I'm out in the woods 4 or 5 nights a week. So,
Oh, you actually go looking. Oh,
oh yeah,
okay.
all the time. It's awesome. It's like
Oh,
my
then you
hobby.
have to tell me on that. Yeah, come join
Yeah.
us.
So my Art Bell story. So when I was young, um, I think I was about 21 years old. I actually worked in the show business. I was a cameraman for CNN for a couple of years, and I worked in the Los Angeles bureau. And I did Larry King Live, and I did Space Coast Coast to Coast, and I did Jesse Jackson Show, and I did Entertainment Today, and I did news, like some of the regular news. You know, it's the camera guy.
Yeah, you did big
Well,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but it was great working for Larry King because every night he would have in, you know, you name it, everybody from presidents to actors to whatever. And one night he had Art Bell on.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And I didn't fangirl over a lot of people, you
Mhm.
know, like I've never been that type of guy. And even as a kid, you know, I was just like, oh cool. Oh, Bill Clinton's coming in. Oh, cool. You know, like whatever. I didn't
Mhm.
care. Oh, thank you, MS. I appreciate it. Um, so Art Bell walks in the studio and I'm like, because you know, it's Art Bell, right? I
Yeah.
listened to him every night since I was like a kid, you know, and Ghost to Ghost on Halloween and all that stuff. Like I was super into it. And I also fangirled for Stan Lee, but that's a story for another day. So, um, Art Bell came in, and I went to the green room because I was, you know, I was around everybody because I was, you know, one of the lead cameraman, and I went, Mr. Bell, Mr. Bell, like I am such a huge fan of you and Coast to Coast, and he has this great big smile. He's like, oh, well, come sit and talk to me. He was like that kind of guy. And we
That's
sit down
awesome.
there. Yeah, he was just how you want him to be. You know, he's not one of those people that you meet and you're disappointed. Like you were just like, oh. So he goes, well, come over here, you know, sit down and talk with me. And we talked for probably like 5 minutes before the show because you know it's a hustle and bustle and
Yeah.
busy, and people are putting makeup on him, and you know you're doing the thing. And and he goes, you want to see something cool? I'm like, I absolutely do. And he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out this little vial, right? This little vial. And he unscrews it and he goes, put your hand out. And I go, okay. You know, I put my hand out. And he dumps it in my hand. And it looked like a little piece of like tinfoil, like aluminum foil. And I
Oh,
go,
oh shit. I think I know this is going. I'm excited.
yeah. And I go, wow. He goes, try to tear it. I'm like, okay. Couldn't even like budget, you know. And he's like, but it was malleable. It was like it was almost like weightless, and it felt like silk. He's like, and you can't do it, but it was metal, right?
Oh,
And he goes, you have a lighter? I go, yeah. He goes, try to burn it. It wouldn't burn. And I go, what is this? And he goes, that's a piece of the Roswell spacecraft.
oh my gosh, I love
Yeah,
it. You said metal. I'm like, is this a piece of Roswell?
yeah. And I was just like, ah! You know. And he was a class act, and that's my Art Bell story.
That is awesome. And so cool of him. He seemed like such a cool guy where he's like, come over, let's chat. I wonder, did he have that in his pocket because he was on the show, or just so anytime he met someone, he could give them a cool experience? Like, I wonder what kind of guy he was, you know?
I think he had it with him for the show, but
Okay.
man, it was cool. Like, he was great, and him and Stan Lee were both like amazing people. So
That's
good
cool.
times.
You know what? I don't think because you said those are the only two people you've have fangirled over. I don't think I've met a man who doesn't fangirl. I don't know what the male equivalent is. Fanboy over over Stan Lee. I'm telling
Right?
you, man. Yeah, he's got an effect on people.
Yeah, I know he was a class act. You know, I worked on Space Coast Coast to Coast, some of the shows I did also, and he was on that a
Mhm.
couple times. And this was all pre movies and everything. This was like 20 some odd years ago. Geez, more than that, 25 years ago. But man, he would, cause you know, I'm a nerd. You know, I'm a huge dork. I'm covered in like Star Wars tattoos and nonsense. You know, so I grew up reading comic books, and I grew up, you know, with sci-fi and horror. Like, that's why, you know, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist. That was like one of my, you know, that was like my dream when I was like 8 years old. Like, I've always been into that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
clearly, uh, you know, meeting something like that, it was just like innovators, disruptors, change the world. And that's, you know, to put the bow on it and end off on this, you know, everybody who's, you know, worried about what Richard Hart's doing, or what Richard Hart is saying, or what Richard Hart is wearing, like, let Richard Hart be Richard Hart. You know, you focus on being you. All right. And because he doesn't, and you don't have to do or be anything. Hex will be fine the way it is. Let's all just hold it together. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's your tidbit on that debate. And you know what,
Yeah.
like we were saying earlier, I see both sides of it. But really I'm like, what my hope is that once, because this type of thing is hands off. He created it, but once it launches, I hope that just the adoption is just so insane, and that everything is so face melting on it, where everything just stands on its own. Past the point, yeah, you know what? He's the creator of it, but everybody's just going to be focused more on the product, so that this isn't even a debate anymore. You know what I mean? I hope it settles itself, because it's kind of unfortunate to be on Twitter and to see, all the everybody taking sides in this, because we are one community, and
Mm-hmm.
like it says, a house divided can't against itself can't stand, and I
Yeah.
think especially now, as we're getting into these last days before Pulse, we just all need to be together and to acknowledge that everybody has a valid point. Both sides have a point,
Oh,
and
I
are
can,
entitled to that opinion.
I agree with that. And I can see both sides of the thing too. You know, and I'm a jeans and t-shirt kind of
Mhm.
guy. I don't care about Rolexes. I don't care about shoes. I don't care about brands. You know, I don't care. I don't want a Lambo. You know, like, you know, that kind of stuff is not important to me. You know, and even if I had the money to buy those things, I wouldn't do it, because to me, it's just, I'd rent the Lambo for a day and be like, "Yay, I'm driving a and then I'd hop in my '65 Cadillac, and you know, that cost $15,000, and go about my business. You know, because that's who I am. I'd rather have a house in the woods with some goats and a big, well lit, you know, studio space away from everybody. That's like my, like, you
Yeah.
know. But you know, but people like what they like. That's me. It
Yeah, no,
doesn't
true.
have to
We
be
all have
everybody.
that. Yeah, trust me, I've thought many times that, when all this goes the way that we're hoping and expecting it to, that I would love to fall off the face of the earth into upstate New York. And
There you
just
go.
you're up
It's
there, you
beautiful up
know?
there.
'Cause we have, yeah, more so than having a Lambo or anything like that. Of course, I do like cars, but I'm more of, like you said, the older classic cars or an RV or something cool like that.
Is that you like classic cars too?
Or I would be more into that. Like I would like to have an older one, but I kind of but I also love the Pontiac Aztec. I love the car that's unique too. So I probably would have a little collection of like weirdness and in addition to classic stuff. Like I don't know a ton about classic cars, but I can appreciate them when I'm around it. Like my friend let me drive her 67 Firebird once. Um and I it was a convertible, maybe all Firebirds are convertible. I don't know, but I'm like, this is nice. I get it. I get why people are into the
Mhm.
classic cars and everything. So yes, I'm more on that page with you because like what are those cars? Like six figures? And then how many cool other classic things can you buy with that same amount of money? I'd rather have
Oh
the
yeah.
10 fun cars than one
No,
than one supercar.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My dream car, if I were to get my dream car that was like done, it'd be like 50 or $60,000. Like,
Mhm.
it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing. Like I like simplicity now. I
Mhm.
like low key and mellow things. Like I'm not one of those people. I'm not an artist who's like, oh, I don't want money. Of course I want money. I want lots of money. Money is nice. Money is great. You know why? Because with money, I can get my books published. I can,
Mhm.
I can get my art shown. And people, when you have money, people listen to you. People listen
Yeah.
to you and they respect you when you have money.
Which is
And
unfortunate, but, it is the way it is. So it
oh,
kind of binds
absolutely.
you into that. And also, like, the thing with money is that it's freedom,
Hmm.
so it's freedom from that matrix that we live in, where where it's just basically, not to sound dramatic, this enslavement to the desires of the elites, where we're their working force. Um
We're on the same page with that kind of stuff. So don't even worry. Like you're
Yeah,
not going to
so
talk.
so you know what I mean? So it breaks us out of that. So to me, I look at it as a way of that, to breaking out of their system and living in more freedom or as much freedom as we can get on this earth.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah.
I think Frosty has the right idea. He's like, peace out. I'm going down to Ecuador. Bye. Like that's, I would like to completely just check out and not be a part of. I don't want to participate in the system anymore. And
Mhm,
that's really my hex flex is going to
mhm.
be. I always tweet about it. I'm like, I'm just going to fuck off to a castle somewhere and paint and
Yeah.
just be left alone. And when I say castle, I don't mean like a little, maybe a little literal castle because you can buy castles super cheap and just keep it all goth and creepy and like
Oh, you
weird.
could. You could. And we do have castles scattered throughout the states, even if you wanted to stay in the states and do it.
Oh, there you go.
Um,
So there you go.
Yeah. But definitely, I think one of the biggest opportunities for us is freedom in this, and then that freedom leads to everything else. So that is like the biggest, like you said, hex flex is freedom.
Hmm.
So because yeah, technically, what we live in a free country, but that's kind of gone. So we need to find our freedom in other ways, and and that happens in so many ways. Our freedom can come through our faith. Our freedom can come through our finances. It could come through yeah, so I'd like to hit it in a bunch of different fronts. you know
Exactly. No,
um
I'm with you 100%, Ash. I completely agree. You nailed it.
well, thank you,
And
and thank you.
you did a great interview. Look at you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still learning, but I'm having fun doing it.
You're
And
good.
thank you for being here today and for talking about your art. I've been an admirer of it ever since I started following you on Twitter. So it's been awesome to get to talk about that, to hear your story and your background. And thank you for being willing to share that and being vulnerable with us, because I'm sure that's not easy things to talk about. So thank you
Well,
so much. And I can't wait to talk about Bigfoot with you on a high
oh,
strange stream.
we'll deep dive on Bigfoot. We'll talk about Dogman. We'll talk about all kinds of different things. We'll have fun.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Thank you,
So
Bobby.
yeah, because I need a little bit more cryptid knowledge. So I am game whenever you are.
We'll,
So
we'll have fun.
thank you again, and have a great one. And thank you everybody for sticking around, for commenting, for watching. I love you all, and see you all soon. Bye. Mwah.
Bye, bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye, bye.